Good evening, welcome to the ITV News in London. Tonight's main stories reveal the shocking scale of fly tipping across the capital and how the criminals are getting away with it. Haringey tops the list of shame in our exclusive investigation.
It's every day. It's an everyday thing. It's quite depressing, just walking past piles of rubbish all over the place.
Caught in the act, the community's taking a stand against the crooks. Also tonight, PalmerTomkinson, the socialite's family, revealed she died from a perforated ulcer and did not have a brain tumour. Double misery for commuters with Southern and Tube strikes next week. And the Londoner who invented this wonderful flying machine and much more. Good evening, I'm Lucrezia Millerini. ITV News London can exclusively reveal tonight just how fly tippers are getting away with their crimes in the capital. They litter our streets with their filth, tip waste in open fields and blight our open spaces, and yet so few are successfully prosecuted, and the scale of the problem is staggering. Overall, there were just under 250,000 reported cases of fly tipping in the capital last year, and yet only 322 prosecutions. Top of the list of shame is Haringey, not only in London but in the country, with a record near 40,000 fly tip reports, but yet only 11 prosecutions. Well, first report tonight is from Ria Chatterjee, who's been in Haringey, the grot spot of Britain.
This might look like a waste site, but it's just a side street. And this heap appeared overnight. Kenny Wilkes is picking through it for clues.
This has got somebody's name and address actually on it.
So that's evidence?
Yeah. And it's an address in Haringey.
The team says this is one of the worst cases they've seen.
We would take this person to court.
There have only been 11 prosecutions. That doesn't send out a very good message, does it?
Someone has spent a lot of time dumping that stuff. Who saw? Nobody. But if someone was able to say there was a van that parked up, I don't know, on Sunday evening, and this is the registration number, that's the kind of information that would enable us to get a lot more prosecutions.
A few miles away in Knowle Park, Rochella Sinclair takes me on a rubbish hunt.
Rubbish begets rubbish.
We end up at the friendship tree, meant to be a symbol of community spirit. But the roots aren't looking too great.
It's an everyday thing. It's quite depressing, just walking past piles of rubbish all over the place. Have a campaign and go around in all the different languages. We're a very diverse community, and talk to people and help people understand why it's a good thing to call the council when you've got a mattress that you want to get rid of.
This is Knowle Park on its worst days, captured by frustrated residents. It's a far cry from the piles of rubbish on the industrial estate, but leaving even small items on the pavement could land you a £400 fine. Haringey Council says they hand out around 10 fixed penalty notices a week.
Fly tips, you know, they appear, you pick them up. That's a simple solution. We need to start looking at more strategic solutions to these. And as I said, it's a transient borough. Some of the fly tipping is coming from those from outside of the borough, running illegal businesses. You know, they give me 10 quid, give me 20 quid. They'll come and dump it in places where they know the council will pick it up.
The council is now planning to slap a charge on collecting bulky waste. Haringey tops the list of Britain's fly tipping hotspots. Could the situation get even worse?
Well, as we've just seen, the filthiest streets in the capital and indeed the country are in Haringey. As you may have seen, where you live, it's not the only place where fly tippers are dumping waste in London. Olivia Kinsley reports now on the communities fighting back and the criminals contaminating our open spaces.
To most people, this looks like a peaceful countryside spot. But to unscrupulous fly tippers, it is the perfect, very dangerous place to dump their trash. Caught red-handed, they jump in and drive off, still pouring rubble and leaving the road covered in debris for the next unsuspecting driver that comes along. That footage was filmed in Harpenden by Graham Bray. He says it happens here all the time, and that makes him angry.
You tend to get outraged, really, especially the amount of times it has happened around here. Not only is it sort of dangerous to anyone on the road, cyclists, horse riders, etc., it's the costs as well. And of course what it does to our beautiful village, really, it sort of defaces it.
The problem is it's difficult to catch fly tippers in the act. In Newham, this lorry came in, dumped its contents and was gone in little more than 60 seconds, leaving Newham Council picking up the pieces.
They make a lot of money by not paying to dispose of it in the right manner. This is criminal. For skills like this, you can expect a custodial sentence, to lose your vehicle, fine if anything up to, well, an unlimited fine, but jail sentence.
But with often little to go on except the mess they've left behind, a small proportion of fly tips end with prosecution. To try to increase that, some councils are asking for help from the public, like in Fulham, where they're hoping for a tip-off on whoever dumped this truckload.
We've been able to pick up some distinctive items.
Croydon Council have taken to posting videos on social media of the clues left behind.
Food waste bin, a suitcase and a few other items which has been littered around here. So we would like your help to help us with the investigation to track down who has been doing this.
And Greenwich told us they've pretty much given up hope of finding whoever did this, but that they're still trying. Whichever council you speak to, they've got a mountain to climb. Olivia Kinsley, ITV News.
Well, I'm joined by Ria Chatterjee and Councillor Julian Bell from London Councils. Ria, let's just chat to you first of all. I mean, you spent the whole day in Haringey, Britain's grot spot, not just London's. And we heard in your report that a lot of this is caused by rogue traders and knocking on people's doors and they say they've got waste to dispose and they're dumping it illegally. What can councils do to tackle this?
Well, Rochelle, the resident you heard from in my report, talked about raising awareness. Rogue collectors will tout for business. They're looking to make a quick buck, and often people use the service for convenience and they may not know where their waste is ending up. And this is a point that Kenny Wilkes, the enforcement officer, made to me earlier today. He said people have no idea, for example, that their waste might end up on a side street somewhere in their borough until a council officer knocks on the door and asks them a pile of questions as part of an investigation. Making people aware of rogue collectors, perhaps using leaflets or knocking on doors and having a conversation face-to-face might be something that councils want to think about.
Well, a good point to bring in Julian Bell here from London Councils. Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we making people more aware that we shouldn't be giving our rubbish to these people who just turn up and knock on your door? I've had it, loads of people knocking and asking if they can take away building refuse. Why aren't councils doing more to tell people that we shouldn't be doing this?
We are doing it. I think we're probably a little bit behind. We should be doing it more.
Yeah.
But certainly what we're doing in Ealing, my council, is we're actually encouraging residents to make sure that when they have waste to dispose, that they've checked that the person that's going to come and take it away has got a licence. You can check that on the Environment website.
That seems that, you know, what Ria was saying, the person that she spoke to, you know, you're busy, we're in London, we've got lots of things to do, someone just knocks on your door, I can take this for a tenner, for 20 quid. People just, they'll act, won't they? They won't go through the process of checking someone's licence and everything else. Surely...
They might not if they get a fine for £400 as a result of it. Because if we find in that, if somebody's asked somebody who's knocked on their door to take their rubbish away, we then go through that and find identification that it's come from that resident's home. We'll slap a £400 fine on them, and that's what we've got to do. There's a bit of stick in terms of these £400 fines, and also making sure that we educate people to, you know, dispose of their rubbish really environmentally friendly.
But those fines, of course, will apply to households and people who give their rubbish. But what are we doing to tackle these people, these rogue traders who are actually doing the fly tipping? Because the prosecution numbers are woefully low, aren't they?
Yeah, and it is about collecting the evidence. But let's just stop first and talk about the fixed penalty notices that have been issued to first-time fly tippers and smaller scale. Significant amounts. That's the part of the reason why Haringey's numbers are so high, that they're actually issuing fines. We as a Ealing Council, in the last 8 months have issued 3,000 fixed penalty notices for fly tipping. So, you know, we are acting as strongly and as aggressively as we can. London councils have recommended all councils should set this maximum £400 fine for fly tipping. But yes, we've got to have more CCTV, we've got to have better ways of trying to capture the evidence to get the real hardcore criminals. And that is a real problem.
We're almost out of time, but a lot of people also said, what about the fact that dumps now are charging? There are extra charges to bring your goods and dispose of. I mean, that's going to put people off as well.
That's the challenge. Local councils have had their budgets cut massively. So, you know, we're having to look at increasing charges in order to keep our services going, because if we don't charge, we may have to stop some of these services, which we can't do. So it is a problem, it's a challenge, but we really hope that people will be responsible in the way that they dispose of their waste.
Right, well, Gillian Bell, Ria Chatterjee, thank you both for joining me now. It looks like things could get a lot worse, though, before they get much better. Thank you both. Well, fly tipping is blighting a street. If fly tipping is blighting a street near you, you can share your pictures and videos on our Facebook page. Just search on there for ITV London. And there's more on the blight of fly tipping across Britain with Mary Nightingale, who bring you the evening news at 6:30. Getting away with illegally dumping rubbish, the fly tippers avoiding prosecution. Despite being caught on camera, ITV News can reveal that less than 1% of offenders are taken to court. Tara PalmerTomkinson's sister says she died of a perforated ulcer and did not have a brain tumour. Joe Root tells us he was changing nappies when he heard he'd be the new England cricket captain. Do join me for those stories and more at 6:30. More now on the death of Tara PalmerTomkinson. As we just heard, the former It Girl died of a perforated ulcer and did not have a brain tumour. Tara's sister Santa shared the news on Twitter and also paid a warm tribute to her. Well, Nick Wallace is at Tara PalmerTomkinson's former home in Kensington. Nick, the family keen to put on the record what happened in the months leading to her death.
Well, yeah, I mean, Tara was just 45 years old when she was found dead last Wednesday in her flat behind me here in Kensington. And the former socialite was a good friend of the royal family. Back in 2011, she attended Prince William's wedding to Kate Middleton alongside her sister, Santa Montefiore. But Tara's drug addiction problems were well known, and her health issues as well. She was reported to have a brain tumour. She also had anxiety, anemia, and an autoimmune problem. And these tweets that Santa Montefiore sent out today seem to be an attempt to clarify, in her words, what the situation was. Now, the first tweet said, "Today, the coroner's report states that Tara died of natural causes, a perforated ulcer. She did not have a brain tumour." And the second tweet says, "Tara's good friends and family know that she was in high spirits in her last days. She had plans, trips, and had written a new song." So some of that information is directly contradicting what we thought we knew about Tara PalmerTomkinson and what friends said in the immediate aftermath of her death.
I would be the last person she would call when she was sort of misbehaving.
Had she got back into that dark place?
Well, I know that every time I didn't hear from her, that's where she was. And then I'd send her a little text.
Well, the coroner's report that Santa was referring to has not yet been published. When it is, we'll perhaps have more of an idea or more of an insight into Tara PalmerTomkinson's health and state of mind in the last few weeks before she died.
All right, Nick Wallace, thank you. A 93-year-old World War II veteran has had his watch stolen from his wrist after a car stopped to ask him for directions in Dagenham. CCTV from a nearby property shows the pensioner speaking to a woman in the back of a car before she snatches the watch from his wrist. The thieves also tried to force the gentleman's wedding ring from his finger, but he managed to pull his arm away as the car drove off. And after London exceeded its annual air pollution limit for the whole of 2017 in just 5 days, the British government has now been given a final warning over air pollution levels. The European Commission has said if action is not taken within 2 months, the matter could be taken to the European Court of Justice. It's estimated that air pollution is linked to the premature deaths of 10,000 people a year in the capital. Now on the trains and on the tubes, commuters are facing a double dose of misery courtesy of the RMT union. It today announced fresh strikes on the Underground and on Southern Rail. A 24-hour walkout on the Central line begins at 9 p.m. next Tuesday, and Southern Guards will strike from midnight for 24 hours on the Wednesday. Our political correspondent Simon Harris joins me now. Simon, 2 disputes, 1 union and still no resolution in sight.
The strike on Southern looked inevitable last night when the RMT walked out of talks with Southern's parent company, GTR. This is the long-running dispute over the role of guards and the decision to put drivers in charge of closing train doors. The strike on the Central line on the same day is a repeat of a walkout last month over plans to transfer 8 drivers from depots in East London to West London against their wishes. London Underground says there's not enough work for them on the Central line and it wants them to fill driver vacancies on the District line. But the RMT says some of them are very senior and can't afford to make the move, and what's more, London Underground should actually be hiring new drivers to fill the vacancies.
Some of these people will have to leave a job, so they're going to have to recruit people anyway to fill those vacancies.
Surely it's better that people be moved to jobs where they're needed than sit in Leytonstone doing nothing.
But they won't be able to attend those jobs. They'll have to recruit people anyway. It's a choice between leaving...
But isn't that part of the agreement that you have, that you can move staff around the entire network?
We can move staff on certain lines, but that's strictly done on a seniority basis. It should be the person who joined the latest would be the person that would have to move. And that's a long-standing agreement, and that's the agreement that management have ripped up.
The strike on Southern will have some impact. The company reckons about a quarter of its trains won't run, but it is only the RMT at the moment. Leaders of the drivers' union, ASLEF, have reached an agreement with Southern. That's being put to the 1,000 drivers on Southern, and the result of that ballot should be known tomorrow.
All right, Simon, thank you. You're watching the ITV News in London. Still to come, a feast for the eyes and the mouth, the edible artist and her incredible creations. And another amazing creation, which took some grit. First, if you're one of the 20,000 desperate people waiting to get a home in Tower Hamlets, it may come as a shock then that a local housing association sold off 50 properties because it couldn't strike a deal with the council to buy them. The mayor of Tower Hamlets wanted to buy the homes. The council is accused of not moving fast enough, as Carolyn Sim reports.
It can take years to get a council property in Tower Hamlets. 20,000 people are waiting now, but there are nowhere near enough homes. So when Poplar Harker Housing Association auctioned off 50 of its flats, the mayor of Tower Hamlets wasn't happy.
We need properties like this because we've got so many people waiting for a home.
The council had offered to buy the 1- and 2-bedroom flats months ago, but last week the properties were spotted on an auction notice.
We consider this to be a betrayal of the principle on which they were set up. They used to be part of the council housing department. They were floated off into a arm's-length organisation, but still carrying that ethos, and we think they've lost sight of what they're meant to be there for. There could be circumstances in which they do clever stuff with finances and properties, but we gave them a far easier option and they chose not to take it.
Poplar Harkers say they were willing to sell the flats to the council, but that they had dragged their feet over the purchase.
Even up until this weekend, we were trying to work out how we could come to an agreement, and we weren't able to do that. We can buy 2 new properties, nearly 2 new properties, through 1 property we sell. That's the reason why we're doing it, is for our residents, so we can provide more new homes, and we sell homes that are going to be very expensive to refurbish.
The row has angered people here, many of whom believe their needs are being ignored.
They're building all these flats and houses going on private, and they're not helping people that really need the help.
There's lots of people that are living here in poverty, waiting to be rehoused, and they're not getting rehoused. They're going down and down the ladder.
There are more housing being built, but they're not really doing anything about it.
Harker's currently building 56 new affordable homes next to Langdon Park DLR. They'll be ready in 18 months.
But the council says homes for the thousands of people on their waiting list are needed right now. It's frustrated that an opportunity to help some of its most socially deprived people has now been lost. Carolyn Sim, ITV News, Tower Hamlets.
My next guest has taken the saying, you eat with your eyes, to the next level. Janice Wong, a world-renowned pastry chef from Singapore, has created some of the most eye-catching pieces of art that are completely 100% edible. Well, she's here in London showing keen foodies how they can get started in the field of edible art. And I'm delighted to say that she joins me now, and she's brought some of her edible art with her. We're all very happy to see it. Janice, thanks so much for joining me this evening. Your art, it's been compared to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and I can see why just by looking at this. How did you get started?
Well, in 2011, I launched my first book, Perfection and Imperfection. I had to feed 400 people, and I wanted to give them the same experience. So just imagine, how can you feed 400 people at the same time? So I started to put all my recipes on the walls and the ceiling.
Okay.
First piece was a 4-meter marshmallow ceiling.
It's amazing. That is very Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I have to say. You've brought some. You were here in London because you were doing a masterclass, and you've brought some of the work that some Londoners have done here. Now, it doesn't really compare to what you do, obviously, but just talk us through.
Sure.
These two little bits here. Now, let's have a look.
I mean, just look at this. This were done by, just people today who had no idea how to even paint the chocolates. It was their first experience, and you can smell it. It smells delicious, this texture. I mean, what we're doing here is we're creating recipes for artists, not just only for chefs, but also for art.
What's it made of? So what is this actual, is it chocolate?
It's chocolate. It's only chocolate. And we actually put a bit more cocoa butter into it, so it sets also faster. And what happens here is, you can actually repaint it, you can remold it. And it smells like every flavor, every colour has a different flavour.
Yeah. I mean, we're a great foodie city here in London, aren't we? How popular is this kind of thing here?
Extremely popular. I think 2 years ago, I did an exhibition with Singapore Inside Out at Brick Lane.
Yeah.
I mean, we did 8,000 chocolates in 5 days. People were queuing up just to pick lollipops off the ceiling. That was really amazing. Today, so many people were just taking all the marshmallows off the canvas. That's really quite unreal.
Well, that must be a bit of a risk because, one of my questions is going to be, how do you stop them from eating the art while they're making it? It's kind of,
today we saw a lot of people eating and making at the same time, but they had so much fun. And that's the beauty of art, there's no rule to it. It's your own imagination. And that's the thing, they were so happy.
Yeah. Well, listen, Janice, it's been absolutely amazing to meet you and to see some of your art. I'm hoping you're going to leave some of it behind for us to maybe sample.
Yeah, for sure.
Janice Wong, thank you so much for coming in to talk to me. Thank you. And finally, it was the frustration he felt with his local council for not gritting cycle lanes in the winter that inspired one London inventor's latest creation. Yannick Reed from Kingston has designed the world's first ever pedal-powered gritter bike. But, as Warren Nettleford explains, this is just the latest in a string of marvellous inventions.
Pay close attention because you haven't seen one of these before. The big sign is a big clue. It's a bicycle with a difference. Coming to a cycle lane near you, maybe anyway. The bike gritter, or gritsicle. I just came up with that name. Many great British inventions began in garden sheds. Welcome to Yannick Reed's Research Lab, Development Centre and Manufacturing Hub. He's on a determined mission to make cycle lanes safe.
This particular invention is because councils around London and around the country, indeed, have not been gritting cycle lanes during the winter because they simply don't have enough money. So I thought, well, I can come up with something, and this is an environmentally friendly and cheap way to grit cycle lanes.
The best inventions are usually the simplest. Here you put grit in the front, push the pedals, and hey presto, watch the grit hit the tarmac. But will it catch on? By day, Yannick works for the Environmental Transport Association. By night, he's creating other inventions, like...
There was a flying bicycle called the Paravello, which is the ultimate way for cyclists to avoid congestion and aggressive drivers. A flamethrower bike, that was the James Bond bike that had an ejector seat and a flamethrower. The world's smallest caravan, so you can tow that around inside a supermarket behind a mobility scooter.
He even found the time to make this miniature burger van for his children. Ambitious ideas, but questionable applications. Yannick may be getting thumbs up from some cyclists, but maybe it's not quite time yet to give up the day job. Warren Nettleford, ITV News.
Well, Martin is here to talk weather. Martin, a gritter bike, we could have done with that last week with the bit of snow that we had.
We could, I think, to be honest, actually, the flamethrower would have done a better job.
A bit dangerous.
Yeah, a little bit dangerous, but definitely would have melted it. Look, good news, Lou, actually. We're not going to need that gritter bike because the weather is turning much more mild for everybody. So, as you said, it was really cold last week. Things really on the up. I know people have been shivering on their way to work and fed up with that cold, biting easterly wind. It is all changing. You know how I talk about our friend, the jet stream?
Yes.
It's moving to the north of us, and that's good news because it means we get the warmer air, which is to the south of it. So by the time we get to Monday, say it quietly, possibly 16 degrees, and it could be staying like that for all of next week, so things feeling much milder for the lot of us. So we have seen a little bit of rain out there this afternoon, particularly around about lunchtime. As we head towards the end of the week, though, things looking up, really. A dry end to the week, and we are going to get that milder air we've just been talking about, and we get a really good visual representation of it on this next chart. Blue is cooler air, the yellow is the warmer air pushing towards us as we go towards the weekend. The warmest air not really arriving till the tail end of Sunday and into Monday. And then what happens is we get a holding pattern, really. The jet stream, that very fast-moving ribbon of air high up in the atmosphere, is to the north of us, and underneath that is this mild air. We're stuck in that, really, for all of next week. I say stuck, it's good news. It means we're going to see light winds and we're going to see higher temperatures than we've seen of late. Now, out there this evening, well, things are staying pretty dry for all of us as well. A fair bit of cloud around, and that cloud will trap in some of the daytime heat. So it's going to be a mild night, quite light winds. And with those light winds, we could just see one or two light bits of mist and fog forming, particularly down towards the south of the region. Temperatures that are not dipping much below 6 or 7 degrees, so frost-free for all of us. And if anything, through tomorrow morning, some of that mist may just thicken for a spell. But the good news is, as we head towards lunchtime, the cloud then rolls away, the sunshine comes out, one or two light showers, but you'd be very unlucky to catch one of those. And the temperature's rather nice. Similar to today, up in double figures, feeling pretty mild in light winds, and then more of the same, really, as we head towards the end of the week. So even though it is going to be a cloudy picture, it'll be dry. There'll always be some decent spells of sunshine, and in that sunshine, temperatures getting up into double figures. Goodbye.
And that is it. I'm back with the latest after ITV News at 10. Coming up, Mary Nightingale with the ITV Evening News. But from me and the rest of the London team, bye-bye.